This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles, on the Rockstar Radio Network. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money, and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author U and the Book Shepherd on the Rockstar Radio Network. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, top of the day to everybody. We've got, as we enter into April, and I have to share with you, we had snow in Colorado 2 days ago, and of course we're Colorado, so by that evening it was gone mostly, but that's what happens here. And spring is back, and we have a beautiful day, and so wishing all of you a wonderful Hanukkah, or not Hanukkah, Passover, or Easter, or anything else that you're celebrating with friends and family. And what we're going to be doing all this month during April is each week I'm going to have one of our fabulous speakers from the Author U extravaganza. And he or she will be talking about a variety of events and activities and how-tos and inside secrets of some of the areas that they are an expertise in. And for example, last week with Georgia McCabe, if you listened in, she was talking about social media and some of the bells and whistles that are all brand new, especially with the Pinterest. And we really focused on the last minute things to do before Facebook did their timeline introduction, which was going to happen literally at midnight that night. So I'd encourage you, if you didn't pick that up, you want to listen to last month's show on the podcast. But this week, we have got one of my very favorite people in the whole world, Brian Jud. And Brian is an author of many, many, many books. One of his books, Beyond the Bookstore, which I have always loved, and how to really make money selling books, is an excellent tool for any author who is interested in selling a book, who is outside of the normal book selling thoughts. At least it was a few years ago, called the bookstore. And Brian's expertise is really, it involves special sales. It involves, how do you sell to your government? Can you? How do you sell to the military? Can you? And how do you sell to schools and libraries? And for heaven's sakes, how do you sell to all these upcoming craft fairs that are be coming along? So Brian joins us right now. Welcome, Brian.
Hi, Judith.
How are you?
Very good. At least we're not having any snow out here in Connecticut.
Well, in Colorado, it goes away, and then we've got this outrageous fire that the government, local government started.
That's big news out here, too.
Is it? Well, can you imagine starting a controlled fire with 79-mile-an-hour winds? I mean, who didn't have their Wheaties that morning? So,
I guess not.
With that said, hey, Brian, you just came from a conference that IBPA, the Independent Book Publishers Association, had in San Francisco, and you and I are both active and members of that. What are some of the interesting stats that you picked up while you were there?
Well, I guess we'll start off with the bad news.
Bad news.
Steve Piersanti is the executive vice president at Barrett Kohler, was the keynote speaker. And he started off with some fairly sobering comments, and I can just quote some of his statistics, that there are over about 316,480 approximately titles published in 2010, just nonfiction, and over 2 million worldwide of all titles, all genre. So that's a lot of books to compete with. But then to compound that, the industry sales are declining. Said that the bookstore sales peaked in 2007 and have been going down every year ever since. And the print declined about 17%, but ebooks increased by 117%. But because they sold for less money, there's about 6% decline in dollar sales. So the unit sales are going down, the dollar sales are going down in aggregate. So, and one other major point is that or two more, that a book has less than a 1% chance of being stocked in an average bookstore. And it said that the people are reading less, which is you would assume because the sales are going down. So those are some of the things that he started off his presentation the same way with the bad news. But we have a different way of looking at the good news with the special sales marketplace, because none of these things really apply to our business in the special sales segment.
Well, the way I look at the 1% sales in bookstores is, to me, there's a couple interesting things. When you look at the roughly 2.5, and I hear numbers anywhere from 2 to 3 million, it's all over the place. That includes every type of book.
Right.
You know, your ebooks, your
yep.
print on demand, your what I call crap books. A lot of crap books are in there.
A lot of those out there.
Right, and that bookstores certainly do have a lesser area, but there are, which is so critical for what you do, there are so many other viable ways for people to sell books that yep. I really think a bookstore, and I don't know if Stephen talked about what Amazon sales increases. Did he get into that?
No, he didn't. These are just bookstore sales.
Because Amazon sales are interesting to follow too, and that with this 1% factor into the bookstores, I really think that most authors, and I've had two situations where I've had to say a dear Jane letter to a couple of authors because I got their books into bookstores. I got Barnes and Nobles through our distributor to, bring in their books, but they failed to drive people to the bookstores, even though they were told that's just part of the game. And that it is absurd for an author, I don't care how experienced you are or how brand new you are, that if you're not going to get off your butt and do the work to drive the potential buyer to the bookstore, forget about this channel of selling.
Well, another point about that is I felt the same way. My first books that I wrote were job search titles, and they were in Barnes & Noble and Walden Books back then, Borders stores. And I was doing a lot of TV and radio work, and I realized after a while that I was driving people to go to bookstores where all the career books were on the same shelf, and I was showing or bringing people into my competition. And so that was another reason I wanted to get out of the bookstore marketplace, because I wanted to, when I was driving someone into a store, I wanted to make sure that my book, my career book anyway, was the only one on the shelf. So you have to really look at that's why promotion as part of your total marketing mix is really important, and to direct people to create the value for your particular content. And get people to, if there are a lot of other books on the shelf, they'll still pick yours because you've done such a good job in your promotion of defining your content as being different from and better than everything else. So there are a lot of variables in there, but I just think it's better to direct your promotion to the non-competitive areas.
And then, well, let's get into these non-competitive, because I know, number one, you've written several books on this itself. And your own experience in the career book certainly was a stepping stone for you to kind of see, hey, there's another way to do this. And so let's just get into those. Why don't you explain to our listeners what is a special sales? What is that? And what's different with marketing to that versus the retail market?
Sure. That's a great place to start, because everything I just talked about of the negatives of the book industry don't really apply to our segment. It's the special sales. I'll start off with that. The special sales, most people say, well, it's everything outside the bookstore. Well, that's difficult to really get your arms around and to try to sell to that kind of a definition. So I break it down into two parts, Judith. One is retail. The other is non-retail, which sounds obvious, but in fact, you have retail stores, which I include in bookstores. You have airport stores, supermarkets, museums, zoos, gift shops, specialty stores. So these are the places in which your book is sold off the shelf. And there are a lot of these places that they're very similar in marketing. One, that you have to have a distributor or a wholesaler to go to the bookstores or any other retailer. And the books are all returnable, and you get paid in 90 to 120 days. So you have all these similarities. There's some positive, some negative, but that's the retail side. On the other side, you have the non-retail. you don't have a distributor going to these areas. These are corporations, associations, schools, military, government, libraries. Libraries obviously do have wholesalers going to those, but the books are non-returnable. So, and schools, I include those in that non-retail sector. And there are the one factor is that you can sell directly to them, so you pick up 65% right there. So you're not going through a distributor, or 55% through a wholesaler. And the books are usually purchased in larger quantities, and they're non-returnable. So if you have 10,000 books to sell, through a retailer, you sell one book to each of 10,000 people. On the other side, you can sell 10,000 books to one person, which is a lot more profitable, certainly.
Well, I haven't. Have I sold 10? Actually, I have, Brian. I did a 25,000 book sale on one.
Well, that's another. Your one of your expertise is back of the room sales, and that's something that you can sell list price also without any returns.
Oh no, those are the best.
Yeah,
because they're basically full price.
Yep.
You're paid instantly. You've got cash on hand in the pocket. And I will say that in the old days, which would be 5 years ago, we would see a lot more cash sales and cash and check sales.
Yep.
Now, 95% of all sales are on credit card.
Yeah, well, that's I use that Square that just fits right in my phone, and I can take credit cards right on the spot too. I was doing it at your last event, and also at the Pub U last month. You swipe the card right there. People get it. You can email a receipt to them. So credit cards are very easy to take now.
Oh, and it's much easier. This whole process is much easier.
Yeah.
So on the deal that you did mention book clubs, and although we've lost several book clubs,
catalogs too.
Yeah, and catalogs, and I haven't sold through a catalog, but I have had experience with book clubs, and I loved getting a purchase of 1,500 books, which is non-returnable.
Right.
Of course, they do want them at an arm and leg discount, and we're talking about a deep discount. And this is where authors, their ego gets in the way here, and sometimes the business. And they need to realize that if someone wants 1,500 copies of your book, and let's say your book is $20, let's make it an easy deal,
sure.
And they want to have, let's say, a 70% discount, and you're even 80%, you think, there's no freaking way I can do that. Well, yes, they can. You can, and you're certainly going to make a little money, your expenses, but it's the exposure that with. We're going to have this and a lot more when we come back with Brian Jud. I'm Judith Briles. You're listening to Your Guide to Book Publishing.
This is Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Is there a book in you or another? Author U will show you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you'll find a supportive and brainstorming community that's connected and creative no matter where you live. Author U brings in national experts for its book camps and annual author extravaganza held each May. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through Author U's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. The Resource, its online book publishing news magazine, is content-heavy and it's free. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, Author U is for you. If you're a hobbyist or a casual author, it's not. Join Author U today through its website at authoru.org. Follow Author U on Twitter at AuthorU and on Facebook at Author U, where timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted daily. Author U, where the author goes to become seriously successful.
Change the way you publish online. WaveCloud is a new forum for authors to manage all their books' information in one place from start to finish, including pricing and listing summary. To learn more or sign up for email updates, visit wavecloud.com.
Every picture tells a story. And it's a truism that people do judge a book by its cover. Nick Sellinger and NZ Graphics have been in the business of producing superior graphic cover design and interior layout for self-published authors, independent and traditional publishers for years. He has developed a reputation for excellent work, fast turnarounds, and best of all, affordable pricing. NZ Graphics also produces ebooks and book marketing materials such as posters, sell sheets, postcards, bookmarks, business cards, logos, and more. Books designed for his clients have won multiple book awards, including Best Book Award by U.S. Book News, multiple Evie Awards from the Colorado Independent Publishers Association, Indie Book Awards, the San Francisco Book Festival Award, and Freedom Medal Award from Valley Forge. Visit www.nzgraphics.com or call 303-985-4174 for more details about making your book the success it should be. Mention that you are an FOJ, friend of Judith's, and that you heard about NZ Graphics on your guide to book publishing.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask on the Rockstar Radio Network. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
You just heard one of our sponsors is Nick Zellinger and NZ Graphics, and we just had a chat with Nick because we're working on a wonderful book called Christina Gradina and her 10 toes that just can't stay put in the shoes. But it's a wonderful, wonderful book that we're sending to the printers tomorrow.
Oh, great.
And Nick is going to be doing, as Brian is, Nick will be doing a stellar program on how to create a cover and as well as the interior that really will rock and roll. He is a gifted illustrator, designer, and cover designer. We love working with Nick and his creativity. So do come to the Author U Extravaganza. I'm going to tell you about a very special offer that we have when we come out of the bottom of the hour. But let's come back to Brian. One of the things we were chatting with because we are seeing summer coming up, flowers are starting to come up here in Colorado, and one of the things that is so prevalent that does extraordinarily well are craft shows. And Brian actually has some ideas about selling your books to craft shows. So why don't we come into that, Brian? And then I'd like you to do is tell us some of the inside secrets of how do you really prep for these special sales that are non-traditional.
Sure. Starting off with the craft fairs, it's something that we do. I run the Connecticut Authors and Publishers Association, and every month we announce the upcoming fairs. It could be craft fairs or art fairs, and the people can get together and do this as a group or even individually. But the key is to do a search on those. I found a great a tool that I use. It's called Copernic. It's COPERNIC, which is a search engine that searches all search engines. But what it does is that it eliminates dupes. So you put in craft fairs in Denver, and you get a list of maybe 200. Where on Google you might get 6 million. So that's one technique of just trying to narrow down your opportunities. But call these things, they may call them craft fairs or art fairs or craft shows. So make sure that you use several different search arguments for that. We go to, we're in Connecticut, and we don't have, the state's not big enough to have our own state fair, so we have a New England state fair, and we set up an exhibit there, and we have 20 authors come in, and they'll sell about 20, we sold in 10 days, sold about $30,000 worth of books. But the key is we don't just do book signings. You want to bring people to the event with some information, talking about I would talk about how to get a job from my old job search days. That's what people would. That's what's going to draw them. So you don't draw them to come and buy your book. So you have some attention-getting factor. It doesn't have to be as big as a trade show event, but if you have a character, and if it's fiction, you may have a character. We had one person dressed up as a banana because his children's book was about this banana. So that brings the kids over, and when the kids come, the parents come there too. So first of all, find out those that are applicable to your topic. Find out what the kind of budget you need. Most of these are very inexpensive, but you can generally cover your expenses there. But you get a lot of good exposure for it. And then have some way of attracting people and make it more of an event, not just a signing. And set up something that's going to attract people to come to your particular booth. Have a lot of good quality product there to sell. Have a way to sell it. Have the square or some way to take the credit cards. And you can use that as a on the spot. You're selling non-returnable at list price, and there are no distribution fees. So it's really a very profitable way to it. And I'll get into more detail about that on my May 4th presentation at the Extravaganza. But that's an overview of it.
Oh, that sounds. I mean, it's something we haven't done as a group here at Author U. But I think it's viable to go in and look. And one of our members actually coordinates fairs. So I thought I'd do a reach out to her and see what's up there. All right. So how do you prep for all this? I mean, literally, besides doing the search, whether it's for the crafts show, the art shows on Copernic, what else does one do? What does an author do really to do a prep for any type of a special sale or let's say non-traditional sale?
Certainly. Well, first of all, I think it's to put your groups, your buyers in different segments. These are ways that these groups of people that buy in similar ways and have different needs. So you have, for example, for a children's book, you're going to have children's libraries or homeschooling or back-of-the-room sales for speaking, daycare centers, moms groups, children's hospitals, airport stores, toy stores. So you have all these, and set these up in different groups, and so you can market to those individually. But then that applies to all kinds of, for retail and non-retail, and for for any type of a book. So then also, I think it's very important to understand that who your buyer is. And if it's something like for a children's book, then you need to come up with the buyer would be the parents, obviously, but probably a younger demographic. But if you know who the buyer is, then you can come up with these segments. But also not just the consumer buyer, because you need to know who the corporate buyers are and who the retail buyers are if you're in retail. But if you can define the corporation, the buyer in there, it could be HR department, it could be a product manager, it could be a marketing manager. They each have different reasons for buying a book. So if you know who the decision maker is, then you can come back to them in your proposal with the way that you can meet their needs. And know about in the corporate area, know the company, know what their divisions are, know what products they have, know who their competitors are, know the industry. And you can do all this through annual reports and just information in trade magazines, so you can learn all about that. But the more that you can learn about the buyers, their industry, their companies, their needs, the much more likely you are to sell to them. But then I think the important thing about that in non-retail, they're not selling your book off the shelf. They're using your book to do something to help them in some way, whether it's to motivate their employees, whether it's to sell more of their product. So think of what I use. I've even held up a box of Arm & Hammer baking soda during a presentation and say, how is this used? And people say, well, for recipes, for baking, as a deodorant. So it has a lot of different uses, but it's the exact same product. And you have to look at your book the same way. So part of your preparation is to look at the benefits of your content. How can you benefit a corporate buyer? Well, you can help them sell more of their product. You may have a book about dog care, so you put a coupon for your book and a 20-pound bag of dog food, and when they buy that dog food, they get your book for free. So you're telling them how your information can help them sell more of their product, or talking to an HR person how your content can help their employees. For one of our clients was looking for a way to help their employees become more informed about a healthy lifestyle, and they had 10,000 employees. So we set it up so month 1, each employee got a book on walking. Month 2, each got a pedometer. Month 3, a journal to keep track of their exercise program. So if you know that the needs of what, and you know that what your content is and how you can address their need with your content, I tell people, stop selling your books, and you'll make more money if you sell what your books do for that buyer. One thing,
and how do you identify that person to pitch it to, though? I mean, because you do have to. This is a sales pitch, so
right.
How do you identify the character who would be the one who would be the yes person?
Well, there are a variety of ways of looking as part of your preparation, part of your research. If you go to a website called Manta, MANTA.com, it will list companies. You can sort these by industry. So if you have a product that's appropriate for pharmaceuticals, then you can go to this Manta.com and you can come up with the names of people to contact. You can get directories like Hoover's or Reference USA or Dun & Bradstreet. That will list the marketing managers, the HR people. So if you go to an SIC, a Standard Industrial Classification System that the government set up, each segment it has a 4-digit code or a 6-digit with the NAICS code. But they organize every company in a similar category is listed, and so it's a prospect list, but it also lists the name of the person, the email address, a telephone number. So part of your preparation, part of your doing this research and prospecting is coming up with the company, but also the names of the individuals in that company to contact. And I suggest starting at the top and working your way down. It started at a vice president of marketing, and generally they'll say the product manager in charge of dog food will be the one that you need to contact. And you contact that product manager and said that your boss just told me to give you a call, which is true. So that's a good way of getting through there. And so that the product manager in an industrial situation or the brand manager in the consumer side will generally be the person that will make the decision because he or she is the one that's responsible for the bottom line for that particular product line. So if you know through your research, Judith, if you come up with these, that's where you get the names of the people, you get their contact information, and then just start one level above, if nothing else, so you can work your way down. So it's that is a it works for associations too. There's a website. We can talk more about associations later, but just in this context, there's a website called Weddles, WEDDLES.com. And when you go to the site, you can sort the associations by your particular format.
All right. When we come back, Brian, let's get into Weddles a little bit more, and also help us with some tips on what we say to these people once we find out that manager. All right?
Okay.
All right, we'll be right back. Your guide to book publishing.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Since 1987, Color House Graphics has set the standard for quality book production. Whether you decide to print a small quantity of books or need a large print run, depend on Color House to help you. You'll receive professional help and advice the moment you reach one of our representatives. If you mention hearing about us on your guide to book publishing with Judith Briles, we will provide you with a discount on the first order you place. To speak with a project manager, call us toll-free at 800-454-1916 or visit us at www.colorhousegraphics.com.
Do you need postcards that make a statement? How about business cards, flyers, brochures, or NCR forms? Tuvets is the solution for all your printing needs. Providing services specially designed for authors, we deliver exceptional quality colored printing. Most important of all, we specialize in reducing your printing costs. No more waiting. No more standing in lines at your local printer. Online proofing. With our pricing tools calculator, you can get instant quotes on all your printing products, as well as shipping rates all over the United States. Just a few clicks of the mouse and you're on the way to discovering how easy and convenient online color printing should be. Contact our friendly, human account representatives. We recognize that you want answers, not voice prompts. Visit our website at www.tu-vets.com or call 1-800 894-8977.
When Ned Thompson and Harry Shore started Thompson Shore in 1972, they believed employees with great character would make up the best company. They were right. They hired people who were not only experts in bookmaking, but who were obsessed with quality and delivering exceptional customer service. Almost 40 years later, Thompson Shore remains a 100% employee-owned company. Ned and Harry knew that successful customer projects are a direct result of empowered employees. We specialize in all books for large and small publishers, creating beautiful and well-made books. We're dedicated to pleasing our customers by making the experience a good one from start to finish. The personal touch we have with our customers allows us to be innovative in solving their most difficult challenges. Our platform also ensures that we can remain flexible to meet our customers' unique needs and expectations. Our marketing kit can create buzz for your title, enhancing the promotion of your book during infancy. When you need to test the market to gauge your future sales, we can provide digitally printed books that will transition seamlessly into a larger offset run. From ebook to hard copy to delivery, our skillful customer service teams are at the ready to answer your most pressing question. At Thompson Shore, we know that making the highest quality books requires more than just best technologies. It requires superior customer service, professionalism to the trade, and commitment to environmental and social values. With these standards of excellence in place, you can be sure that we will always help you put your best book forward.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask on the Rockstar Radio Network. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right. So always at the bottom of the hour, we talk about with one of our sponsors, and I get to wear the hat with Author U as well as Book Shepherd, that the sponsor is that what we're doing is the extravaganza, and what we have coming up, and as I said, Brian is going to be one of our featured speakers, and he's going to talk about specific steps on how to market fiction. And for some weird reason, authors who write fiction seem to think that there is a whole new, unique set of strategies and rules when it comes to placing and selling fiction. And Brian and I are here to tell you there ain't. That there's, 90% is similar. But here's what's going on at Author U. We have an amazing, amazing array of book marketing professionals. Brian is one of them. Georgia McCabe, who was on last week with social media, is another one. Janita Cooper, who is coming in, is a master for over 30 years of creating side products, those DVDs, those CDs, getting your books into different formats and using them, positioning as additional product. We've got Mary Burnett coming in, who is going to show you how to tap dance with QR codes and mobile marketing, and for fiction, as well as nonfiction, as well as if your book is for if your population you're trying to reach is the under 30 group, you need to hear what Mary Barnett has to say about mobile marketing, because it's a whole new game in town. We're going to get into Pinterest. We're going to get into what's going on in the new Facebook land and what are the other social medias that are coming along. John Kramer has a deep dive workshop with the first half of it dedicated to ebook marketing and the second half to regular print book marketing. And then we have Steve Harrison, who is coming in from New York, who is going to share the 7 secrets of what separates the successful author from the non-successful author. And I will tell you one of them is lack of marketing. But here's the deal. We've gone past all our early bird stages. So for you to come in, if you're a member of Author U, it's going to cost you $347 to participate in the 2-day event on Friday and Saturday. For the Kramer event, it's going to cost another $77, and there's only 5 seats left for that. For the non-member, it's going to cost a little bit over $400 to participate. And for the Kramer event, it jumps up to $90+. But here's the deal, and listen closely. If you sign up and register, you can bring someone else for half price. And it's all on our website, AuthorU, AUTHOR, the letter U, .org, AUTHORU.org, and get the details. Come on out to Denver. It is a glorious place to be the first week in May, from the 3rd through the 5th. Okay, Brian, let's talk about those fiction people.
Sure. It gets back to the idea of stop selling your books. I mentioned before that you're not looking at selling books. You're looking at selling how your books can help them achieve one of their goals. And just one program we've started, we call it a corporate library, in which we go to a company, say Ford Motor Company, and they would send out to all their employees every month a list of books. And these are not business books. They're trying to have books that have a variety of topics that will help the employees become more well-rounded, or more just be better employees. So they sell a lot of fiction that way. And it's the fiction. So again, you're going back to the need. The need is to help make the employees be more satisfied working for the company, so they get to read this fiction at a much discounted price. Fiction for the military. They sell a lot of fiction. The Navy-Next is the naval equivalent of it's a Navy exchange service, and they sell a lot of books to the sailors on board ship. And these people are out there. There's no bookstore on the ship, and they have the catalog with the listing all the products, and they order this book. The next day, the helicopter comes in with all the supplies and the books. Sell a lot of fiction that way. So I think if you look at any of those retail opportunities I mentioned, the non-bookstore retailers, airport stores, and not airport bookstores, but other airport stores, supermarkets, gift shops, specialty stores, these sell fiction, much more than nonfiction. It's a higher percentage of fiction. But all these things apply to both. I mean, the same ways of getting in, the same benefits applies to fiction and nonfiction. So you just have to listen for the concept about how to get your content to these buyers. And if you can do that, it applies to fiction and nonfiction. Just the preparation we talked about, knowing who your buyers are, knowing what their needs are. And that goes into your question just before the break, talking about making the presentation. So presentation is based upon your research. And what you do first you do your research, you get that information about the needs, about the buyers, about what they're trying to accomplish, what their objectives are, and then you create with your proposal. And that's basically how your recommendation will meet their needs and how much it's going to cost them. And you can do that, come up with what's called the as-is strategy, just a basic way to outline your proposal. You describe the current situation, what the desired situation is, and how to get there, the delta. So your proposal mentions both those because your research, you found out what their objectives are, and then you describe how you can have this program where you give each employee a book on on walking, and a book and a pedometer. So you outline your proposal, and then you make the presentation. And the presentation is much like performing on television. You have the 3 V's of verbal, vocal, and visual. The verbal is your proposal, the words that you have there. The vocal, the way you project those words, and visually, the way that you look when you're doing it. So I think if you have a proposal that you can present, may have copies for people to look at. But you don't want to give those copies out in the beginning. You give those out as handouts at the end, or else they'll be thumbing through it. And maybe it's the 3 or 4 page proposal. I did that over the telephone today. I had a major client, and I'm trying to do a major project with this client, and we spent an hour on the phone talking about my proposal and describing the research that I did and the way that this proposal will do that. I went over another thing that helped me a lot today was I did a best case, worst case, most likely case. Because if you come in there and say that you'll buy my book and you're going to sell a million new of your items, well, they're not going to believe that. But if you can give them a bracket the risk is what it's called. You bracket the risk. You come up with the worst case, and if we get by my book says the source of this solution, then Here's the worst that's going to happen. Here's the best that's going to happen. But here's the most likely outcome of this proposal. So that way you're demonstrating the fact that you've considered alternatives, and you give them an exit strategy also, a reason that if they're in it for X months and they decide that's not working, that they have an exit strategy. So you make it very easy for them to say yes and very difficult to say no. But the way that you have that, the way that you present it, you demonstrate your professionalism, you demonstrate your ability to negotiate too, because when you give them your proposal, and you'll focus on the most likely scenario of those three, but you'll mention the others. And then you come up with, before you go in there, you come up with what I call a BNO, a best negotiated outcome. Mm-hmm. So you list everything that you would be desirable for you. It could be non-returnable, you want delivery, long delivery dates, short discounts, no customization. That's the ultimate. Now you think, what am I willing to negotiate away, and what am I not willing to negotiate away? And then you go in there, you have pricing. You go to your printer and come up with pricing at a variety of different quantities. So if you order 5,000 books, here's the price. If you order 10,000 books, here's the price. 50,000 books, here's the price. So when you get in there, you have all this information at your fingertips, so you're able to negotiate on the spot and close the sale. So, but that if you have that BNO, the best negotiated outcome, that is something that will give you or help you organize that information, so you know what you will and what you are not willing to negotiate away. Then have what's also called a BATNA. This is not my term. This is an industry term. It's called BATNA, your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And what this does is it lets you know your bottom line, what you're not willing to settle for. If they want 10,000 books with a 90% delivery, a 90% discount, shipped tomorrow with complete customization, obviously I'm exaggerating, but they want something that's totally against what you are able to produce, you have to say no. It's difficult sometimes if they're holding a check in front of you for 50,000 copies of your book, and you have to say, well, no, sorry, I can't take it. But if you take it, then it could you can't fulfill it. You cause ill will. So you have that BATNA. If you have your organized approach coming in, and then your bottom line that you won't accept anything beyond that. Then it's that having that BATNA really helps calm you down, because you know that you have another alternative with another company that can accept better than that. So there's a lot of psychology in this, but you combine the concepts of performing on the air with the selling techniques of negotiating, and that's basically all you need to do in selling. And it's something that is based on it's based on their needs. I'll finish that sentence.
Okay. So when we come back, here's what I want you to do, because that ties into really the military. Things are changing with the military right now and selling to them. So I'd love to have you get into some tips and techniques on selling into that. All right.
Sure.
I'm Judith Briles. With me is my guest, Brian Jud. You're listening to Your Guide to Book Publishing.
This is Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Writing and reading are moving to the cloud. WaveCloud represents a whole new community for writers and readers to connect, communicate, evaluate, and share. Writers hone their craft and build their business. Readers build their favorites. Sign up for updates at wavecloud.com.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and a guide to partner with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand, and is a financial success, a bestseller. It's your choice. You choose. You need the book shepherd. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You don't need problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and the chaos. At times, she's had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher or by a publishing service provider or sometimes even the author themselves. Judith Briles is the book shepherd if you want to create a book with no regrets. Give her a call today, 303-885-2207. That's 303-885-2207, or email her at judith@briles.com. By the way, Briles is spelled B-R-I-L-E-S. Follow Judith on Twitter at My Book Shepherd and on Facebook at The Book Shepherd.
At Total Printing Systems, customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Are you the kind of parent who just wants their kids to live the life of their dreams? Well, grab your kids and join How to Raise a Millionaire Radio with Ann Morgan James and Jack James. It's a lively interview and call-in show, Thursdays, 6 p.m. Central on the Rockstar Radio Network. This dynamic mother and son team are on a mission. They want to empower kids to dream big and go after those dreams with gusto. They want to fill the world with kid entrepreneurs. Are your kids ready for success? Don't miss their fun antics, lively guests, and discussions. For more on Ann and Jack and their show, check out their website, howtoraiseamillionaire.com. Then join the conversation of lively interviews and call-ins. And let's give our kids the tools and encouragements they need to build a future they can bank on, no matter what the economy throws their way. It's How to Raise a Millionaire Radio with Ann Morgan James and Jack James. Thursdays, 6 p.m. Central on the Rockstar Radio Network. Get ready for resources, tools, and support to help you build a successful business and live an awesome life. It's the Women's Business Success Show with your host, founder of the Association of Women Entrepreneurs, Tara McHugh. Thursdays at 11 a.m. Central here on the Rockstar Radio Network. Each show will feature a special guest interview. Tara will bring you highly successful entrepreneurs sharing their stories of success. You'll hear about the challenges they faced along their journey, together with the advice they have to help you achieve more. You'll also hear from various personal and business development experts sharing tips, solutions, and strategies that you can easily implement into your business and life for amazing results. For more on Tara and her show, check out her website, aofwe.com. Then join us for the Women's Business Success Show with your host, the founder of the Association of Women Entrepreneurs, Tara McHugh. Thursdays at 11 a.m. Central here on the Rockstar Radio Network. Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask on the Rockstar Radio Network. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, welcome back. In our last segment, I let out to be talking about what's going on and how do we sell to the military and government. And Brian and I have a mutual friend, Elaine Dumler, who wrote a book called, You're Almost Home, and it dealt with deployment. And she took 4 pages out of Brian's book, Beyond the Bookstore, and she has sold to date, just focusing, forget the rest of the pages. She basically ripped it out and focused on these 4 pages, step-by-step strategy, contact, follow-up, market, identify the audience, what the pain is, what the benefit is, what it will do for the recipient, etc. And she has sold in excess of 80,000 books to date. That's pretty amazing, don't you think, Brian?
I think it's great. Yes, she's a real marketer, too.
Well, she is, but that's actually like 79,000 books ahead of the average New York Times, New York publisher seller.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so what do we do there? How do we reach out? Because people are coming back. I don't know really what the total population of the military is, but what are some of the techniques to go down this path?
Yeah. Well, there are about 6 million opportunities for people involved with the military if you consider the retired military people, the families, and the active service personnel. So it is a good-sized marketplace. But break this into two areas. One is overseas military market and then the domestic military market. Overseas, I talked before about the onboard ship. But think about the service people and their families that are deployed in hostile or non-hostile areas, particularly the non-hostile with the families. They have schools. The Department of Defense runs about 200 schools, K-12 schools outside the U.S., so you can sell books as textbooks there. They also, if you have books about travel in the host country or the language of the host country or different idiosyncrasies of the host country, then those will sell very well. So there are opportunities in the overseas area. Unfortunately, there is a need for dealing with the death of a spouse or parent. So if you have a book on that topic, that would sell to the military also and help a lot of people. Now, you look at the domestic side, there are the variety of ways. There are the exchanges. You have the AAFES, the Army Air Force Exchange Service. This is one that Elaine used a lot, but you can go there and talk to Tim Calkin. He's the book buyer at aafes.com, and you can click through and find his email address and phone number there. So
why don't you repeat that for our listeners?
Sure. It's the Army Air Force Exchange Service. So it's AAF as Army Air Force ES Exchange Service, AAFES. And Tim's phone number, if you want that, it's 214-312-6659. That was the last number I have for him, but hope he's not inundated tomorrow with phone calls. At any rate,
okay.
So there are, think of the other places. There are the military media, which Elaine used a lot also. There's the Armed Forces Journal, the Military Markets magazine. There's one for each of the other branches. The Military Times, there's a Army, Air Force, Marines, Navy, Military Times. There are media, the broadcast media. There are TV and radio shows. There are the Armed Forces Radio and Television Service, the American Forces Network, the Armed Forces Network. So you can do a search on radio-locator.com to get all these radio shows, these radio stations. There are military associations. There's the Gold Star Wives, the Retired Officers Association. That's what's going to expand your opportunity into the 6 million category. But you have the Veterans of Foreign Wars. The American Logistics Association is probably the best one you need to remember. That's the one that's going to help you get into all these military opportunities. It's the American Logistics Association. But also military book clubs. There's the Military Family Book Club. The militarybookclub.com is one. So these are niche opportunities. There are military libraries. Each one of these service academies has a library, but the Department of Defense runs an enormous library or libraries. The Pentagon has an enormous library. So these opportunities, it requires direct contact. There is no distributor to these, so you have to contact these on your own. But the people, they're willing to listen to you. It's the same as selling to the government in the sense that they are not necessarily obligated to call you back, but they have to call you back because you are an American citizen, and the government has to call you back within 24 hours. So it's something
is that a cool thing to hear?
Yeah. And they have to
no
be nice
hiding
to you.
Behind voicemail.
And they have to be nice to you.
Yeah.
Which is great. But that's why I've always said it's a good place to start. And that's the federal government. The local government, you may have a little bit more of a challenge. But there's the local, there's the state government, federal government.
What's the process? Brian, how long does it take? Let's say you do get a hold of, so we call Tim or we go to some other source. What's the process? How long does it take for them to make a decision? And what kind of expectations on discounting are they looking for?
Great questions. And the exchanges are looking for, they work through wholesalers. If you go to that afees.com site, they actually list the recommended wholesalers. So you have a 55% discount, and the books are returnable. So you just go there, you contact these wholesalers and become associated with them, and so that's your discount. As far as the time goes, that's an interesting question, because if you have a book that's really appropriate for the military and something that they need, and it's not just military history, it could be fiction. It could be books about children, how children can deal with frequent moves or the death of a parent. Then those books they would pick up pretty frequently. If you have a book about management, then it's on their list, but not something that would have be on high priority on their list, because they have other books on that topic. So it's once you get in there, it's into the wholesaler. It's going to take you a month or two, and then into the system another couple of months. Probably 4 to 6 months from when you first contact them and to get into those exchanges. It's much like
that would be a good idea. I think that if you've got anything that will help a family in conflict, and are they cutting back at all? Because things are. When I talk to people who work in government, there's certainly cutbacks going on.
Yeah, well, there are, but on the military, they're not going to cut back on what's good for the service people, because they're trying to get the service person to re-up and to stay in the system, and to do that, they've got to make the family happy. So I sold a lot of my job search books to the military, because they have the spouse of the service person who's transferred with the person. Obviously, they're looking for a new job, or when the service person wants to get out of the military, they're looking for a job. So just that it was not a military book, but it sold very well to the military because it met that need. And if they can keep the spouses happy and the family happy, then they're spending money where they can get the most return on that dollar spent for the non-hostile area, obviously. So it's something that it depends on the topic, but if you can demonstrate, if you go back to that need, Judith, here's how I can help you meet your need of keeping more people re-upping in the service and keeping the families happy. Here's how I can help you do that. Boom, you have,
and that's great.
That's
a great thing. Yeah, Brian, we have about 20 seconds left. So what's one final tip that we can leave our listeners with?
If you want to sell it to the federal government, go to FedBizOps, FedBizOpps.gov. They tell what they buy, from whom, when, how much, and what quantities, how much they cost and what quantity. So it's a prospect list for you. In the government, you can find out if they are buying your topic. If they're not going to buy your book now, you can do a work for hire for the government. They have a lot of work for hire projects where they hire authors to write for them.
Oh, fabulous. Well, listen, I so look forward to seeing you in 4 weeks at the extravaganza. I know it's going to be jam-packed. For our listeners, please go to the authoru.org site, sign up, come to Denver. You won't regret it. Next week, we'll have Marty Dickinson, who will be doing a program on getting brutal with Google, but we're going to be talking about websites for authors. This is Judith Briles.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles.